Here's example 13 of sum and difference formulas. So here's another establish the identity problem, and the identity we want to establish is tangent of theta plus pi over 2 equals negative cotangent of theta. Okay, so just like with every establish the identity problem, in every single establish the identity problem, what you always want to do is just pick one side, start on just that side, leave the other side completely alone, and manipulate that one side to make it look like the other side. Okay, so and usually what we want to do is start on the more complicated side. So neither of these are really all that complicated. This one is maybe a little more because it has the theta plus pi over 2. And we are talking about sum and difference formulas, so maybe we should start on this side here. Okay, so it's tangent of one angle plus another angle, so we're going to end up using this formula here. Tangent of alpha plus beta is this mess right here. So we're going to try that at first anyway, and we're going to see something happen. Okay, so anyway, we'll try and start with that. So, wrong one. So tangent of theta plus pi over 2 equals, so we're going to use that formula with here's our alpha, here's our beta. Okay, so tangent of alpha plus beta, and by the way, if you want to copy this worksheet or this formula sheet here, check the video description, there's a link there, you can click that link to get a copy of this. So tangent of alpha plus beta is tangent alpha plus tangent beta, all divided by 1 minus tangent alpha tangent beta. So this is going to be tangent of theta plus tangent of pi over 2, a tangent of alpha plus tangent of beta, over 1 minus tangent of alpha times tangent of beta. Okay? Now we have to evaluate, simplify, so tangent of theta is just tangent of theta. Tangent of pi over 2 is, whoa, hold on a sec, right? So this might be jumping out at you as something bad. Okay, so remember tangent of pi over 2 is sine of pi over 2 divided by the cosine of pi over 2. But the cosine of pi over 2 is 0. Okay, so really what we're doing here is dividing by 0, and that's totally not okay. That's absolutely not okay. That's very bad. Bad, 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 very bad. Never, ever, ever divide by 0. It's totally not okay. No exceptions. Okay, so how are we going to do this? Well, remember, well, what we just said was tangent is sine divided by cosine. So what we can actually do is say, okay, tangent of theta plus pi over 2 is the sine of theta plus pi over 2 divided by the cosine of theta plus pi over 2. Okay, and sometimes doing this might be necessary. So like in this case here, if you do something like this and you end up with something undefined, okay, you just can't go any further. You're just kind of stuck there. So you have to resort to the fact that tangent is sine divided by cosine. So tangent of theta plus pi over 2 is sine of theta plus pi over 2 over cosine of theta plus pi over 2. So now what we can do is use the formulas here. So sine of theta plus pi over 2, that's going to be sine of one angle plus another angle. And cosine of theta plus pi over 2, we'll use this formula here for cosine of one angle plus another angle. Okay, so for both of these guys, it's actually still going to be the same. Alpha is still going to be theta. Okay, this is still going to be our alpha, and then pi over 2 is still our beta. Okay, so that's still alpha, that's still beta. So what do we have on top? Well, sine of alpha plus beta is sine alpha cosine beta plus cosine alpha sine beta. Okay. So this is sine of alpha cosine of beta plus cosine of alpha. Remember, alpha is our theta, okay? Times the sine of beta. Okay, so that's what's happening on top. What about on the bottom? What's happening on the bottom? Well, on the bottom, cosine of theta plus pi over 2, so that's going to be cosine of one angle plus another, cosine of alpha plus beta. Cosine of alpha plus beta is cosine alpha cosine beta minus sine alpha sine beta. So this is going to be cosine of alpha. And remember, theta is our alpha, okay? Cosine of alpha cosine of beta, beta is pi over 2, minus sine of alpha. Feels weird saying alpha and writing theta, but anyway, so theta, that's our alpha, and then pi over 2 is our beta. Sine of beta. Okay. Now we just evaluate and simplify like we tried to do up here, but then couldn't. So if we evaluate and simplify, then what happens is we have sine of theta times cosine of pi over 2 is 0. We know that from the unit circle. then cosine of theta times sine of pi over 2 is 1. Then on the bottom we have cosine of theta times cosine of pi over 2, so that's cosine of theta times 0. And then minus sine of theta times sine of pi over 2, again that's just 1. Okay, so sine of theta times 0 is just 0, that goes away. And then on the top we just have cosine of theta times 1, which is cosine of theta. And then what happens on the bottom? Cosine of theta times 0 is just 0, so that goes away. Then we have negative sine of theta times 1, so that's negative sine of theta. Okay. So with the negative sign on the bottom, just like that, we can pull it off to the side, whether it's on the top or the bottom, and then we'll have cosine of theta over sine of theta with the negative sign out here. And remember, cosine divided by sine is the cotangent, so this is negative cotangent of theta. Okay? And that's exactly what we wanted, right? We wanted to show that this equals that. So, this is a relatively simple looking formula here, or relatively simple looking identity, but we had to go through a lot of writing, really. It wasn't that complicated, just once we try to do this at first, we end up with something undefined, so we have to resort to the fact that tangent is sine divided by cosine. So it seems like kind of a long way to go to show something so simple. But again, it really wasn't that complicated. The thing is just remember your unit circle so that we can remember tangent of pi over 2 is not defined, so we cannot go that route. And just remember that tangent is sine divided by cosine. So then we can just use this fact here and use these other formulas here. And evaluate using the unit circle. Cosine of pi over 2 is 0, sine of pi over 2 is 1. Simplify, remember that cotangent is cosine divided by sine, and that's it. So that's example 13 of using sum and difference formulas.